Hello, welcome to Lesson 4, Writing with Dev, Lesson 4. Massive thanks to everybody for tuning in. I'm having a great time. One thing that I always say to people who are a little unsure about writing is never ask anyone how to get there unless they've been there. There are a whole lot of people out there who will give you heaps of advice, and many of them have never published, many of them have never written. Many of them are just people who love to know about everything, okay? So never ask anyone who's to get somewhere unless they've been there. And also, even if it's like a writer like me, I mightn't know the right way for you, right? You will find the right path for you. You could say to me, hey, Dev, I want to become a columnist with a newspaper. And so you know how you said don't ask anyone how to get there unless they've been there, you've been there, how do you do it? And I would say to you, I started 20 years ago. That's like asking me where I stayed 20 years ago in New York because it was a good tip. It's like things have changed by then. Even someone who is currently where you are now, or was where you are now, and is now where you'd like to be, their advice mightn't be right for you either. So you've got to muddle your way through, but do kind of look at examples. Don't underestimate just getting something finished, okay? All writing is useful. It will either get paid for, published, give you pleasure, give you a profile, make you a better writer, or it will become the compost that you grow the writing thing in, that gives you those things, gets published, gives you profile, gives you pleasure, gives you satisfaction, makes you feel like a better writer. So Andy Warhol has a great quote, and I just think if you had anything tattooed under your eyelids, this is probably it. Don't think about making art, just get it done. Let everyone else decide if it's good or bad, and while they are deciding, make even more art. Everything gets used in the end. It's always useful because it's skilling you up for the thing that will give you what you think that you want, which is sometimes not what you actually want. We are going to start right now. So the most urgent task is the showing of gratitude. So that's what we're going to start with today. For 10 minutes, you are going to write a thank you letter to whoever you like. It could be someone from the past that you've been meaning to thank. It could be someone who did something lovely for you yesterday. It could be a thank you letter to yourself. So for 10 minutes, that's what we're going to do. If you would like a jumping off point, you can write this down first. The most urgent task is the showing of gratitude. I'm going to put the timer on and I'm going to write with you. Okay, get cracking. Stop looking at me. I know I'm good looking, but just, make with the pen. 2 minutes left. Thirty seconds left. We're done. Fantastic. Great. So, I wonder if you're going to send that. I grew up writing, and as you know, I'm dyslexic, and my writing was poor handwriting, bad spelling, but I always loved writing letters. So I think I've got a real soft spot for letters as a way to write, but which is a perfect lead into, I got another letter. I've got all of these emails. So if you'd like to send me an email with your specific writing question, I won't answer it directly, but I might answer it here on our little free writing lessons. Catherine.deveny@gmail.com. There'll be a link in the comments to a page where you can donate, and you can also see the info about how to send me a little question. All right, so here's the question. Hi, Catherine. As a recently unshackled English teacher, I completely agree with you just right. Here's my question. I'm dedicating a chunk of time to completing a writing project which is publishable. What is the process once it's cooked? Do I need an agent? If so, how does one engage one? Should I try to cold sell it onto a publisher directly? The more professional side of this caper is somewhat murky. Would you be able to walk through the end of through this end of things? One of the ways you can tell if you're dyslexic and you're in the D squad is that you're not very good at reading aloud, and you often snag a bit. Because we have problems with decoding and encoding, we don't read in a linear fashion. We kind of read in a kind of a more artistic fashion. Basically, everything is being, imagine like a salad just being thrown at us, and we kind of have to put it all together so we can get it in the bowl. That's how it works. So that's from KJ, and her name's actually Karen, but because of all the Karen memes, she says that she's changed her name to KJ. Okay, so recently unshackled English teacher. This is always very interesting. English teachers are often the people who come to my Gunners Writing Masterclass who have been the most creatively bonsai'd and kind of footbound and trellised with their own stories and ideas and imagination, because they're the kind of people who as little kids were interested in stories and imagination and information and education, and that process of reading and stories and spelling and communication got really hijacked from the people outside. So parents told them how great they were because they had lovely handwriting and they could read a lot and read really fast, and how beautiful their spelling was and what a great mark they got, as well as teachers telling them that too. So when kids are little, they're very malleable and they play to the audience. Their brains are malleable, so we can teach them how to do things to save their lives. And this ends up with a whole lot of people moving away from their own instinct and their own voices and just going for the marks and the external validation. And often they come to gunners and it's like, this is not my beautiful house. This is not my beautiful wife. Tell me, how did I get here? So they're also the most enthusiastic. So KJ writes here, a chunk of time, I'm dedicating a chunk of time to complete a writing project which is of publishable quality. Now, I have real issues with that term, publishable. It is very judgy. It's very judgy. I don't like the term blog. It's like, oh, she's not a writer, she's a blogger. What's the fucking difference? It's all just words and sentences and stories. So if you say something is of publishable quality, that's kind of making an assumption that it is of some kind of quality, which means that it should be published, which is kind of nuts to me. It's, there's so much language in writing which is used to undermine certain, oh, that's not literature, that's just chick lit. Oh, that's just young adult. It's all words, sentences and stories. I don't care if it's a PhD, if it's a children's book, if it's a tweet, if it's a Facebook status, it's all worthwhile. And the idea that something is publishable, keep in mind, you don't get published because you're good. There's lots of great writing which never gets published. There's lots of great writing which no one's ever seen because people just write it for their own pleasure. Because remember, that's why we write. We write because it makes us feel good, in the same way that exercising or brushing our teeth or walking the dog or getting something done, that is why we write. So whatever is publishable, you only get published for two reasons. Number one, the business, and it is a business, thinks they can make money from what you write. And number two, and there's normally a crossover, that they think it is marketable, that people will like it, or the publisher or the editor has a specific interest in what you're writing. They're the only reasons that you'll get published. The fact that something is popular or out there is no indicator that it's any good. Crocs, Thomas the Tank Engine, Gangnam Style, 50 Shades of Grey. It's no indicator that it's good because it's popular or because it's published. So, what's the process once it's cooked? Okay, I think a lot of people snag themselves on the idea of what's going to happen with their writing. Oh, I'm worried about legal consequences, or what my family think. It's like, no one's going to fucking read it if you don't put it out there. Write like no one's going to read it, because chances are no one will, because A, they just won't read it because it's just there and they're not interested in it, or B, you're not going to put it out there. The most important thing is to get it finished. Don't underestimate just starting something, finishing something, and then starting something else. I sometimes think that that's all artists are people who start something, finish something, and then start something else. So the answer to your question, KJ, is shut the fuck up and write. Just get it finished. By the time if you get it finished, send it to me and I'll send it to you to an editor, right? So that's for all of you. If you have something written which is ready to go, get in contact with me and I will recommend a publisher that you can pay to work with. There are things, so basically if you want to get published, if it's a book or something like that, or an article, go to the website of wherever you think it might fit and check out their manuscript guidelines. They'll have very clear manuscript guidelines and it will tell you when they accept, how they accept, what you need for your book or your piece to be considered for publication. There's Manuscript Mondays. I think that's Allen and Unwin's. I'm not sure who it is. Once a month, they take unsolicited manuscripts. But the number one way to guarantee you will get published, guarantee, is self-publishing, which I have not done, but I'm a huge fan of and a huge advocate for. If you are interested in self-publishing, we are just about to run at Gunners my 10th self-publishing masterclass, and I don't do it. Of course, you know how I said, don't ask anyone how to get there unless they've been there. I haven't self-published. So I employ the self-publishing guru, Julie Pastance. So this is, I think, our 10th. We have had thousands of books sold republished. There's been, I think that we've had people on Conversations with Richard Feidler. We've even got from the Self-Publishing Masterclass one baby book, which is in this baby package sent out by Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews, written by Nicola Philp. And her first print run was 100 and her second print run was 25,000 because it went in all of these baby bundles that Dan Andrews sent out. So that's on the 16th of May in Melbourne, 2020, with Julie Pastance. One of the things about self-publishing that I love is it's a finished product. You've got something to work before. Like KJ hasn't said, I want to get a publisher, I want to get an agent. Agent, by the way, KJ, I have no idea about agents. I don't have an agent. Give it a shot, but don't spend too much time. Another thing that I say is if people are thinking about selling things to magazines or columns or articles, don't pitch, because pitching is not writing. You'll spend your entire time pitching and you won't spend any time writing. You know what you should do? Write the whole thing from start to finish and send it off, because you've got the value of having something done and getting whatever talent, skills, experience from that, and it is done. It's done, it's finished. You don't want to just be, you want to be a writer. You don't want to be someone who just writes pictures, which is writing. But is that all you want to do? No, write the whole thing start to finish. Remember how I said use the things that you distract yourself with or procrastinate with for rewards. You can also use external validation as a reward to get something done. It's like you are allowed to send this out after it is finished. And you might send out 10, 20 articles, but eventually something will get picked up. At the same time, you'll become a better writer and you'll have all of these things that you've already done. A woman came to me recently. She said, I really want to be a professional writer now, Dev. You know, I've worked in comms for years. What do I do? I said, just finish 300 things. And she said, what? I said, just finish 300 things. By the time you have finished 300 chapters of writing a book, 300 articles, 300 columns, 300 one-person stand-up shows, you will get something published. Just start, finish, then start something else, because you will get better. You will just get better. You will find the stories that you want to tell and the voices that you want to tell in. But it's not going to happen if you just pitch. It's not going to happen if you don't finish anything. You have to finish stuff and move the fuck on. Just get it down. It doesn't matter. You can get something down in one form as a novel, then it becomes a screenplay, then it could become a TED Talk. It doesn't matter. Just downdraft, updraft, dental draft. So Manuscript Guidelines, you can check those out on the site of whatever publisher or whatever publication you're thinking about. Manuscript Monday, and there's other things like that. You can put them in the comments if you know of something specific which might be helpful. Self-publishing for the win. So many publishers are picking up stuff that is self-published, because if a publisher can see a finished product, it's like a dream for them. They don't have to kind of take a gamble on someone. They can read it and they can see what it is. So I'm a huge fan of self-publishing. It gives you something to work for, and you're not waiting for some guy to just decide that he thinks that you're good enough, or some woman to get dedicated to your cause. You're doing it yourself. You've got to become a self-sourcing pudding. So my number one advice, KJ, would be just self-publish, because it's done. And that does not mean it's not going to be published by a publisher. If that's something that you want, which I understand that people do, and I understand why. But the most important thing to remember is you write for you. That is why we write. So you need to get stuff done. So finish 300 things. Another thing that I did when I got stuck into my memoir, which is sitting on it's going to be published about this time next year with Black Ink Books, is that I went back into it for like the 8th time, and I was feeling a bit daunted, and I just said to myself, just do 100 hours. Just do 100 hours. Just hate write for 100 hours. Then when you get out, then move forward with it. So there you go. Judgy words like publishable, blog, chick lit, I'm not a fan. And get it out there. No idea about agents, but I know that they're quite picky. They'll generally choose a book that is really red hot, but more likely someone who has some kind of profile online. So that's worth thinking about building up. But I know it's not everybody's cup of tea. You don't need to have a profile online to get published. You certainly don't if you're self-published, but it does help if there's some way you can build up your profile, or it's something that you can use in your positive benefit kind of way. Okay, shut the fuck up and run. Okay, so for the next 10 minutes, you are going to write, actually not 10 minutes, more like 7 minutes. What I'd like you to write is, I'd like you to write about your favorite person. 7 minutes writing about your favorite person. Start now. I'm going to put the timer on. 7 minutes writing about your favorite person. Who is your favorite person? I mean, obviously, besides me. All right. 7 minutes, start. Let's go. Three more minutes. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and there we go. Stop the timer. Great. Okay, so don't forget what Andy Warhol says. Don't think about art, just get it done. Let everyone decide if it's good or bad. While they are deciding, make even more art. My own advice to you is shut the fuck up and write. In order to write, you need to build up a head of steam, and talking about it dissipates it. You feel like you've written, but you've just talked about writing. So don't talk to anyone about your writing. If people say, how's your writing going? You go, fine. And then say, how are your kids? What computer game are you playing? You know, are you going to that gig on Friday? Just absolutely pull the roller door down on any discussion about your writing. Feed that energy into yourself. That's what you need to do. Shut the fuck up and write. Talking about it dissipates it. Don't underestimate just getting something finished and then getting on to the next thing. Focus on the process, not the project. You won't know what the really good thing is that's going to give you the pleasure, the satisfaction, give you profile, get you published, whatever it is you want. You're not going to know what that thing is while you're doing it. But it will happen if you just keep starting stuff, finishing it, and don't spending your time and not spending your time piss farting around. When I was about 23, I was living in Fitzroy in Melbourne. I had just finished my arts degree at La Trobe, and I was in this kind of artistic world and a bit keen to become a stand-up comedian and a writer, which is what ended up happening. There were a lot of people who would hang out at Mario's Cafe in Brunswick Street. A lot of wannabes, has-been, could-have-beens, and people who were actually doing stuff. People who were seeing on the telly and were buying their records. They used to go there for the fantastic coffee and the first, to my knowledge, all-day breakfast. This is, we're talking about 27 years ago. And so I'd see people who were doing it and had done it. I was also seeing a lot of people who are needing to have a talk or some feedback or a meeting or discuss or picking brains, and they were getting fucking nothing done apart from having a lot of meetings. Around that time, there was this amazing graffiti that turned up on the corner of Brunswick Street and Argyle Street in Fitzroy, and I finally, after 25 years, found the photo that I'd taken of it, and it just said, "Action speaks louder than coffee chats." So pull your finger out, get over yourself, and remember your excuses are bullshit. I will see you back here for number 5 of our online lessons. Hop onto the link if you want to ask me a question or you'd like to donate. Did I tell you I've got Patreon now? I do, but I really don't want you putting your hand in your pocket unless you've got some spare cash. These are for free, but donations are very welcome. So thanks for coming along, and I'll see you very soon. I hope you enjoyed my plants. You can see the link in the comments of where they're from. Okay, see ya.